He looked at me and said, I will give you one more chance. Yeah? Don't waste my time. If you want to learn from me, do what you say you're going to do. And I was like, oh my Lord, it was the first time he treated me like an adult when I was 13. And I thought, oh, this is different. And I went away and I worked at it. And I came back, and the next week, I played it beautifully. And he was like, okay, here's what we're going to do.
Today's guest is joining us from a place that shows up in book number 3 of the Terms book series. When Addie and her friends hit the road, every mile brings a new clue, a new challenge, and a new adventure. But every great road trip needs the perfect soundtrack. Today's guest has spent his career exploring how music connects people, creates community, and even helps solve some of the world's biggest human problems. Andrew McCluskey is the president of the MusicTo Foundation, where playlists become more than background music. They become bridges between people. Today, we're discovering how music can become one of the most powerful tools you'll ever carry with you. Today on Careers IRL, we're stepping inside the world of music, nonprofit leadership, and community building. Welcome to the show where we explore the real stories, the skills, and pathways behind fascinating careers. I'm the infamous Aunt Loxley, and today we're going behind the scenes of a career that proves music isn't just something we listen to. It can bring people together, change lives, and build communities around the world. Today's guest is Andrew McCluskey, president of the MusicTo Foundation. Andrew has led national nonprofits, advised founders and CEOs, managed massive retail operations, and today is helping people use music to break down barriers and connect across cultures and generations. His career journey is proof that sometimes your greatest passion quietly follows you through every chapter of your life until it becomes your life's work. And oh boy, do I know that. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Loxley, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, and everybody's going to find out where your accent is from soon through all of these stories that you tell. So let's just dive right into it. And can you tell us what your world of music is really like?
It's huge. It's amazing. And I would think it's different for everybody. I mean, that's the cool thing about music. It's like we all have our own connection to it. But my world of music, I've often worn 2 hats because I wear the president of the foundation hat where we do all foundation-y stuff. But I've also worn the musician's hat. And they're 2 very different things. And I think that if I was thinking of a career in music, there are so many different jobs in it. So it's just the musicians are like, they're just a small part of the careers and opportunities that are available to work with music. So I think my world of music, I love it, but it can be anybody's world of music, and it's a brilliant place to be.
And I could tell from the guitars that are hanging on your wall that you have done a little bit in music. So kind of explain your music career, your journey.
Okay, so I was very lucky. I had brilliant parents, and they had a piano at home. And I remember one of my earliest memories was as a 3-year-old sitting at the piano, and it's like at the bottom end, you've got that brrr noises, and then at the top end, you've got the high noises. And I had at my time that the angels lived at the top and the demons lived at the bottom, and they would kind of play battles through my fingers. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I was just drawn to the piano at 3. And so I've played it all my life, but it was only later in life that I thought, you know what, I want to be a professional musician. So, I was like 29, 30, I know, ancient. But, I sort of came to Los Angeles and I joined a rock band. And that was amazing. And since then, I've been a professional musician, a professional writer. I've been a creative director, a musical director. But when you're coming down that music path, you have to be, you can't fake being a musician. You have to have done the work. And I found that out when when I joined a band and I wasn't good enough. And you can't lie. You can't kind of fake it or fudge it. It's so apparent that you're not good enough when you're playing with other people. So one of the hard things about being a musician is how hard you have to work to be good. But one of the great things about being a musician is when you get to that level and you get to play with other people at that level. It's one of the most amazing things in the world.
If you are enjoying Careers IRL, hit follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode, because every week we explore a different career and the path it takes to get there. In book 3, where clues take root, Addie and her friends set off on a road trip that requires planning and teamwork and learning how to stop along in the journey and just enjoy it and tell all of the parts of the story. And if you've ever taken a road trip, you know that music becomes a part of the adventure too. Now, Andrew, you have built an entire organization around the idea that music can connect people who might not otherwise meet. I'd love to hear how a simple playlist can turn into something much bigger than just songs playing through the speakers.
Well, it all started with an argument. And it started, seriously.
Aren't those the best ideas?
It started with an argument between two people who really believed in what we were doing. So MusicTo started with people all over the world making playlists. And we were all individually going down, making our playlists and growing. And we had this community, and the website was attracting tens of thousands of visitors. And when you're the leader, when you're the boss, your job is to set the direction for where things go. And that's really sometimes the hardest thing in the world to do. So when you're the leader of a community, and there are people in the community who are really passionate about where it should go, and then they started to fight, and they not fight, but they started to disagree online. And it was a significant argument. And so we as a team stepped in and we, got to chat with them. And it was agreed that they would make a playlist together. And we hadn't really done that. And the way they made a playlist was one of them was in Australia and one of them was in England. And so they would send a track to each other. So the first person receives a track and he listens to it. And then he sends a track back to the other one who listens to it. And they went back and forth and they created a 22 track, what we call a collaborative playlist. And it was brilliant because two things came out of it. One, you had this really cool playlist that now sits on Spotify and Tidal and Deezer and Amazon and Apple and YouTube. But the second thing and the coolest thing was they actually became friends by sharing music together and finding out that, hang about, they actually had way more in common than they thought they did when they didn't know each other. And it was that thing that I remember looking at that going, oh, that's cool. And that's what we built this entire thing around.
Wow. So kind of explain to everybody what the MusicTo platform is for those who haven't gone onto it yet.
Well, if you go to musicto.com, musicto.com, you'll find that you arrive on a web page and there's just tons of playlists. And we have a banner that says playlists by people, not AI. because we still believe in the people. We like the AI too, but we'll talk about that later. So just for you, if you like music, and maybe you use Spotify or Apple, and maybe you get your music from TikTok, the way you discover music, these companies, they have their algorithms, and you all know algorithms and social media, but they are looking to present you with tracks that they want you to hear. Yeah, there is a commercial thing going behind the scenes. We pay for these services. So what that tends to do is that the music that you hear sounds kind of the same. Yeah? Because the platforms don't want to, upset you too much. So they give you the same kind of thing. And if we continue doing that, music just gets boring because you never get to hear anything really different. And so what our playlists are, they're made up because we've now got 600-700 collaborative playlists, let alone the thousands of tracks that we had before then. What you hear on a MusicTo playlist doesn't sound like anything you'd hear on a Spotify list or a Discover Weekly, because it's made up of two people who are just literally sharing what they want the other person to hear. So you're gonna, and we don't do it like, here is R&B, or here's cool hip hop, or, so it's not genre. We do it around emotions. It's like one of the most powerful playlists I made was called Depression. And we made that playlist between two people who, who deal with depression in their life. And we were trading tracks, and it was so powerful. And you wouldn't get that anywhere else in the world, but you'd get two voices of these people that are sharing music that they use to help them deal with something that really challenges them.
Mm-hmm. That is incredible. So everyone, make certain that you go to MusicTo.com and take a look at this, because you can listen to these playlists for free. Do you make your own account too? I can't remember.
No, you can literally, all our playlists are distributed across all the major platforms. So if you can go to YouTube and you just listen to the playlist on YouTube. You can listen to it free on Spotify. Everybody has their music player of choice. I can guarantee every kid listening to this,
Yes.
they're either a Spotify or a YouTube or a TikTok or an Apple person. It'll be on your phone.
Okay, perfect. There, we cleared that up for me because I didn't know the nitty-gritty details. Now, Andrew, your career has taken some incredible turns, from growing up around the world to studying psychology to managing one of Britain's largest retailers to then moving across the ocean to join a rock band and eventually leading nonprofits that help thousands of people. Now, looking back, which one of these unexpected detours taught you the lesson that completely changed the direction of your life?
Well, and please, kids, don't buy me. It was a teacher. It's always the teacher,
Yep.
because all of it comes. I said I started the piano at the age of 3, and I was pretty good. And I got to the age of 12, 13. And back in the day, I don't know how they teach piano now. You're playing Chopin, you're playing Mozart, and it's just like, it's so boring. I wanted to play what was on the radio, and I was going to give the piano up. And my elder brother said, "Don't give it up yet. There's a new teacher. Go and work with him." And I remember, because I do know what it's like to be 13. I have been 13. I was sulky. I wasn't terribly happy. I didn't want to do it. And I turned up to the piano studio. It's a big grand piano in this old chapel. And the teacher was this guy. He must have been like 40, which now to me feels quite young. But back then when I was 13, he was like, who's this ancient dude and what is he going to teach me? And he said, right, well, we're not going to do Chopin and Mozart. I'm going to teach you something different. So he gave me a piece of music and he said, right, this is called the blues scale. When you go away, learn it and come back next week. And then I'll teach you the next step. Did I learn it? No. So I came back to the lesson the next week. And like we all do as 13-year-olds, just like tried to kind of bluff my way through it. And he just stood up and he looked at me and said, I will give you one more chance. Yeah. Don't waste my time. If you want to learn from me, do what you say you're going to do. And I was like, oh my Lord, it was the first time he treated me like an adult when I was 13. And I thought, oh, this is different. And I went away and I worked at it. And I came back, and the next week I played it beautifully. And he was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn you into somebody who accompanies other people. And he taught me how to play for a singer. He taught me how to sit inside a group. He taught me that if you can be the person that creates the platform for other people to shine, it's an amazing feeling. And that went into my head at 13. And for years, I would play with singers. And I'm the guy that you don't see, sitting at the piano wearing black, but I'm the one creating the platform where the star can stand and shine. And I just fell in love with that. And that's been the red thread throughout my entire career.
That is the best way to describe a pianist I've ever heard in my life, because I grew up learning how to play the piano too, and it was never described to me like that. I would have loved it even more if I would have known that. That's incredible. So, was there a moment when you realized music wasn't just something you loved, but it was going to be the thread connected to everything else that you did?
I don't know, because I think that kind of thing you can only really tell when you look back. And if you think I've had such a wide career, I spent all of my 20s in corporate business. And while, when you do corporate business, you get sent to hotels where they teach you things, but hotels have pianos. So I was the guy in the suit playing the piano at the end of the evening, which was fun. But it was only when I changed my life, I changed my career, I left one country and moved to another to join a band. And then, even then, coming out of the band, I then went and did nonprofit management. But I was always playing music in the background. And now, over the time, I've managed to get to a point in my 50s, almost 60, where I'm now working in nonprofit and business, because nonprofit is a business. Yeah, you have to be almost a stronger business person to manage a nonprofit than you do in the for-profit world. So make no mistake
Absolutely.
about that.
Yeah.
But then to have music as well and understand how music fits. So putting those two together, I can now, at this really late, well, hopefully not too late, but at the stage of my life, I can look back and go, yeah, okay, so music has been a thread through my life, but it wasn't always obvious. And sometimes it wasn't always so clear that it was there. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And kind of walk them through the path of, you used to work at one of the largest retailers in England. Can't remember the name of it, but kind of walk us through that path so that they can see the steps that you've taken in your career. So,
Okay, so let's do this quickly.
yeah.
So first job was painting a restaurant. Next job was working as a waiter. The next job I was working inside a milk factory doing nights. The next job was working as a waiter again in London. The next job was answering telephones for a company that was doing recruitment. And then when I graduated, they recruited me. And then I worked for another recruitment firm, crazy recruitment firm. And then the next job was working inside Marks and Spencer, which is this massive retail organization. And that was an amazing job, because they teach you how to manage people very quickly. What they do is they put you on the sales floor inside a store, and they give you a rack of shirts and they say, make that rack make money. And so you have to look at the data, and then they give you two racks, and then they give you a human being, and then you get a department, and then you got three human beings and a supervisor, and it grows and grows. And what it teaches you is you can't make money in resale on your own. You have to be able to work with people and motivate them and help them and align them, because they are the people that make the whole operation go. So that I did that for 5-6 years, and it was amazing. It taught me so much, and I ended up working in the head office, and it was such an amazing job. But then I thought, I know, let's change my life. So I stopped that job and I came over to America. So then I worked as a free newspaper delivery person, handing out free papers in Santa Monica. Then I was answering the phones in a nonprofit, $9 an hour, saying hello. And then, all the time having been in the band, but that band wasn't, paying. That was an independent band. So then I'm in the nonprofit, and then I go from answering the telephones to being called the systems manager, because I had some systems stuff. And then I became the executive director, and then I became the CEO and president. And then I left that. And then I couldn't get a job, and then I worked in a tax office again, and then I grew up in the tax office, and I helped them, and then I jumped out of that, and then I was employed as a songwriter, and I did that. That was an amazing job, and I became a creative director and designed that decal that was actually ended up on the side of a tour bus.
Ooh.
And toured a wee bit with that. And then I came out of that, and then I started my own consulting business with a colleague, and then I didn't like doing that. And then I started another consulting business, and then I started MusicTo Work To, and then the MusicTo website, and now the foundation, and now I advise other companies. You couldn't write. I mean, Atty would be looking at that going, wow. But I think, look, there's always a takeaway after that story. It's like, there's one thing that goes all the way through, and that's it's the values you have that enable you to go and do all these different things. I think we're all really bright. I think we're all really smart. I mean, kids watching this, there is this thing in America, you can do anything. And look, if you're 5'4", you're not playing linebacker for the Jets. Or, if you're 6 foot and all you ever wanted to be was, an Air Force pilot, that's going to be challenging. So you can't always do everything you want. But oh my Lord, particularly nowadays, with the brains that you have and what we're surrounded by in the technology, I think you can pretty much do anything that your body and your genes are going to, allow you to do. So don't worry too much about what it is you do. And we'll talk more about how to accelerate that. But I don't know. That was my journey.
Now, before we continue, if you're enjoying these conversations about real careers and real people, be sure to follow the show. Every week, we introduce students to new career paths and the skills that are needed to get there. Now, knowing what you know now, and I always, like to say, if you could go back in a time machine, our 50-year-old self, knowing what we know, and could go back to when we were 16, how would we kind of restart things, and how would we prepare for what we know we love to do today? How would you as a 16-year-old approach the music industry?
Well, because there are so many careers in the music industry, I think if I wanted to, back at 16, was really pushing into that. If I wanted to be a musician, I would play my instrument more. Even though I loved becoming an accompanist, I wasn't playing 5-6 hours a day, which is what I had to do at 30 to become a professional musician. So there's that. But you know what? I think what I would do to work in the music world, I would listen to more music. And what I mean by that is everybody listening to this has a favorite artist, somebody that, if they had the money, they'd go and see the gig. And so there's a type of music that we like, and maybe our parents influenced that, or maybe our big brother influenced that, or maybe we went to a new school and the particular people that were your kind of people, they've got these bands and artists and singers that they like. So we get into these kind of groups and we get into, oh, I like R&B, or you know what? I'm a, Southern hip hop, vibe. If you want to work in music, the best way you connect with people is through connecting over music that you both know. So, example, I'm in a professional studio. We're working with professional musicians and we're working out a piece of music. And this is an original song that I've written with the talent. And I hear it in my head, talent hears it in her head. The drummer can't quite hear what we hear yet. So the best way to communicate is through existing music. So you can turn around and you say, okay, it's got a kind of flow rider beat. And they get that. Or, you know what? It's got an Ed Sheeran kind of groove here. And like this, and like, yeah. So the more music you know and the more artists you know, and not just the ones that you like, but go listen to music that you don't like. Go and find somebody who's like a Swedish death metal fan and just say, hey, play me your favorite tracks and tell me why you like them. That I did do that one day, like 2 o'clock in the morning in a studio in LA. The intern was a Swedish death metal. I now have an appreciation for Swedish death metal that I didn't have before. But to prepare yourself for a career in music, listen to as much music as possible. You don't have to like it, but what it will give you is a way to connect with a human being that you wouldn't normally be able to.
Yeah. Are there any books or tools or resources that you can recommend?
Yeah, you should go to music2.com and you join our community. Literally. I'm about to make a playlist with a 15-year-old. I met her parents. We were away at a conference in California and they said, our daughter loves to make playlists. I'm like, obviously the parental control is in there, but it really, that community is about people who are curious and who are trading tracks. So you'll hear music you would never normally hear. But there are places where you can go and, get new music sent to you. There's loads of places online. When I was developing music too, I recognized that I didn't come from a culture where we listened to a lot of hip hop. I didn't really listen to a lot of EDM. And so I subscribed to services, and they probably don't exist anymore, where they would send me a track a day from that genre. And then I would just make time to sit and listen to this music that initially I didn't like, but it's amazing, once you spend time with something, how you start to appreciate it. And then you even start to like it. It's nuts.
Yeah. So would you suggest for somebody who is really into music, whatever path they're going to take, whether they want to be a musician or be in the business side of it or some other, because there are so many, could you suggest any like trade schools, or are there any programs? I mean, we've all heard of Juilliard, and there are like very certain universities to go to for music, but do you have any suggestions?
I mean, there are loads. There's Berklee College of Music, which is a great one, and they have an online, presence. I mean, and they're well established. I mean, if you're in LA, there's the Musicians Institute. Yet, these things are, yeah, they're good. I mean, they're good, but they cost a lot of money to get into. It's 2026. If you want to get into music or you want to get into, the music business, absolutely listen to as much music as possible. The bigger your vocabulary of music, the more likely it is that you will connect with somebody. So that is, rather than the institutions, because you can go and Google and find out, okay, what's the optimal career path if I want to play guitar? It's move to LA, or it's move to wherever. It's do this particular institute. But here's the real skill if you want a career in music, is be a good hang.
Yes.
If you are going to be in a group, I've been the creative director on a gig where we're paying musicians to come in. And if you're going to be on a bus with somebody for weeks and months, if you're going to be in a rehearsal room for 5, 6 hours a day with the same people for 2 months, then personal hygiene. it's, I can't tell you how important that is and how really talented musicians that we've auditioned didn't get the gig because dude, they smell. They weren't taking care of themselves. Personal hygiene. Um, Show up on time because here's the competition for music to be in the music world is so high. And when you don't show up on time, what you're saying is that your time is more important than the other person's time, and you immediately lose. You know, do the work. If you've been sent to chart, be prepared. Again, we were on this country gig and the, we were going through, different players and the bass player, Matt McJunkins, who's now played for the Eagles of Death Metal, Beta Band. He's got his own gig. I mean, he was coming up and we were one of these, independent paid gigs. He's playing in a country gig with black painted fingernails because that's who he is. But you know what? He showed up on time. He'd done the work. He was, great to hang with. He was funny. You would sit after rehearsal and he was a great hang and he was a great player. But it's those it's not the talent or the skill on the machine. It's the human skills that if you work on those will take you further than, hey, look at me, I can shred.
I absolutely agree with that because there's nothing worse than being on a tour bus with somebody and they have horrible personal hygiene. They don't pick up after themselves. They can't hold a conversation. I think one of the most important traits you can have is that you're easy to be around and that you're easy to travel with. And traveling with somebody can make me end a friendship if they're horrible to travel with.
There's that, but there's also, I wanted to fire the drummer. We were, the band were at a restaurant. We were in between, a showcase gig and, he was rude to the waitress and he was
Oh,
dismissive and I was outraged because you don't do that. Nobody's any better than anybody else. Just because you might have some status, you don't treat somebody as if they're beneath you. So yeah, he didn't last much longer after that.
and as I work with, I have a lot of volunteers that help me with books that build skills. And with a lot of the students that I work with one on one, I'm really helping them with trying to find internships or places where they can get some experience to put on their high school resume. So, are there situations like that in the music world where a teenager could step into an internship or an apprenticeship or volunteer and people don't understand the importance of this? And I have heard every single career path I've ever talked to somebody, those who've made it the furthest volunteered as a teenager for free to sweep the floors and wherever they were just so they could
Yeah.
watch and learn from other
Yeah.
people. So do you have any advice in that regard?
Well, do it. Absolutely do it. The challenge is it's different times now than perhaps it was, even 20 years ago, certainly to how it was, 40 years ago. So, to be an intern, there is an expectation to be paid, but the minute money is moving, that's a whole different thing. And if you're 15, you can't be getting, there's just challenges with that. Um, But we had unpaid interns coming through the foundation, coming through MusicTo for years. And I put the program on hold because there was some ethical pushback from, from the university. We had interns out of NYU's Stern Music School and interns from Liverpool's music department. And a few years back, they kind of changed. No, if you're going to have interns, you got to pay them. Now, we were a broke, non-profit. So it's like, well, we don't have the ability to pay them. But some of those interns that went through MusicTo, they're now, agents inside labels. They're working with careers and they look back on the experience, incredibly fondly. So I don't know is the approach. But hey, there's no harm in asking, is there?
Exactly. Find your favorite place you would like to work with, call them up, and just ask them if you can come help.
Yeah.
Pretty much guarantee you're going to get a response, a good one. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And if you're young, have your parents back
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
as I say, I'm about to make a playlist with a 15-year-old lass, but that will go through, that email exchange will route through the mother because I don't want to be, we have to be really, really clear and transparent.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, once someone gets in this career path, what would you recommend they do to grow and to level up?
It really does depend on which route they're taking within the music industry. But I think we touched on the key one is be cool, be a good hang. And I can't tell you enough how many people fall short at this. Be useful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and being useful is if you come in with a mindset of I'm being paid to do this and I will do this and I will go home, great. Yeah. That's fine. But you won't accelerate or you won't move if the person next to you is like, I've done that. What have you got next? Or, hey, have you thought of this? So it's showing enthusiasm. And one of the core aspects of the MusicTo Foundation is all about humanity. It's all about feelings. It's all about emotions. It's like, how do we connect as humans? And just think about it. When you walk in, you go into the classroom the other day and you look around and you'll see some people are just sitting at the desk like that. And does that make you want to go to them? Just, because their energy bounces back. And then you look over somewhere else and you see there are, two people laughing. And it's like you're drawn to that. And I think just hold that in your head because it's the same all the way up through life. Do you want to hang with the upbeat, energetic, having fun people? Or, do you want to spend time with people who are miserable and unhappy? And just one caveat, I'm not happy all the time. Nobody's happy all the time. And there are times when I don't want to be with anybody and I'm quite, I can be unhappy and I'll be alone and in my world and that's fine. But when I'm out in the world with other people, I will try and be as upbeat and useful. And that has served me well my entire career.
If your company believes in literacy, career exploration, and workforce readiness, we'd love to talk to you about getting involved with books that build skills. Addie is always wondering what she can build next. You're building something very different, a future where music helps people understand one another better instead of driving them apart. And as technology changes the way we discover music and connect with one another, what excites you the most about the future of your field, and where do you hope organizations like your MusicTo Foundation will make the biggest difference over the next 10 years?
I am an advocate for human use of AI. Think it's brilliant. And I'm not talking, hey, AI, answer my email, or hey, I can't even say it, write my essay. All of that, yeah, we've all seen that. And hopefully by now we all know that it's pretty lame for that. Because I can smell an AI email or essay a mile away, and everybody can. So it's not for that, but Here's where I think it's cool for music. And if you want to get into music and maybe you're not a great musician, well, here's your opportunity. So to be a musician, you have to study and you have to, work your fingers to play the piano or the guitar, or, it's muscle memory and it's years, hours learning your instrument. But what's happening now is the rise of the producer. So people using FL Loops, people using Ableton, Logic. I mean, these are all kind of obscure names for digital audio workstations. But that's when, Pro Tools, what the professionals use. But there's now a whole bunch of tools and software that's coming out that's going to make it easier for you to make your own music. And again, and I'm not talking Suno where you say, hey, AI, write me a song that sounds like, Adele, and make the lyrics about how she's riding a pony into the future. Because you can do that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a tool that you can download on your phone and you can speak to it and you can work up a beat, and then maybe you can speak to it a little more, and then you'll do this, and then there'll be a distribution platform, and you can share it with your friend, and they can say, hey, whoop, maybe they can drop a vocal on it. Maybe somebody else has got some, has got some lines that they want to throw. It's going to make making music just more accessible. And what I think, because a lot of musicians will go, oh, that's not fair. I had to work for years to be a musician, and now these pesky kids are like getting it easy. But I don't see it that way. Because when I look at music, music is how we connect. And there's been a challenge in the last 20 years about how music moves. And that's a whole discussion for another time. But if more people are making music and having fun, and there's more music out in the world, and there's more connections being made, I think the future for music is amazing.
I totally agree with that. AI is a great tool that all of us can use in so many ways. Yeah. Now is time for our lightning round. So, really quick answers on these. Tell us one skill every teen should learn.
How to make friends.
Something you wish schools taught more of.
How to make friends.
A tool you can't live without.
My laptop, my MacBook Pro.
Yes. The biggest myth about music and musicians.
That it's an easy life.
Yeah. If Addie McAllister, our little character
Okay.
in the books, was standing here today asking you how to build a life full of skills and adventure, what would you tell her?
Take the idea of curiosity. Be curious. That's just kind of bolt that in as a core aspect of who you are. So when you're out and about and you see something, go find out more about it. There's so much that we don't know, and there's so much out there. If curiosity is a core part of who you are, life gets good.
Do you know a student who's trying to figure out what they want to do when they grow up? And would they possibly want to be a musician? If so, share this episode with them. A huge thank you to you, Andrew McCluskey, for joining us today and giving us the behind the scenes look at how music, leadership, and nonprofit innovation can come together to make a real difference in people's lives.
You are very welcome, Luxie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, you'll find a similar spirit of adventure in Book 3, where clues take root when they take off on that road trip, where every mile traveled reveals another clue and another journey teaches something new. If today's story sparked an idea, gave you courage, or helped you to see what's possible, then we did our job. Remember, skills aren't born, they're built. And until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and keep exploring what's possible.